Hey everyone, my name is Nicole, also known as Nikki Vegan, and if you watch my videos, you know that I am in a different place, and that's because I'm actually in Florida visiting my family for the holidays, but I'm so excited to share these Nordic style vegan cardamom sugar cookie sandwiches with you. It's got a long name because it's a very specific cookie. I love the holidays because my grandma used to make so many cookies. My grandma's from Norway, and we had a lot of different Norwegian style cookies, and when I went vegan, I didn't have them for a while because I couldn't figure out how to veganize them without making them kind of hard and dry. And whenever I would try to make sugar cookies, I would roll them out and I would think they were okay, or the dough was kind of hard to work with, but I thought it was going to be okay, and then I'd put it in the oven and they would either puff up or spread out or be super dry and crackly, and I just couldn't figure out what was wrong. But I have been practicing. I've been vegan now for many years, and so I've made lots of cookies, and I've learned so many tips and tricks for delicious cookies, if I do say so myself. Like, I think this is one of my best cookie recipes, and it's because of some very simple but easy techniques that you can use to make this cookie recipe or really any recipe. So I'm really excited to share it with you. I hope you enjoy, and let's get started. First step is to start with our flax egg. I always like to do the thing that takes the longest first and work backwards from there. So we'll go ahead and add the ground flax seeds and the water, mix that together in a bowl, and then just set it aside. Super easy. A question I get asked a lot is, what kind of vegan butter should I use for baking cookies? And my answer is to use sticks. It's different in terms of the water to fat ratio than the buttery spread that comes in a tub. So whenever you're baking and making cookies, it's a good idea, unless the recipe specifically calls for something special, I would recommend using the sticks. And I personally use the Earth Balance sticks. I find them to be really reliable and consistent, and so that's what I use here. The other thing that's really important to keep in mind is that you want it to be softened, which is one of those things you always see in recipes and you kind of roll your eyes because you're like, not that big of a deal, and you'll try to start creaming the butter and sugar when it's cold still or cold in the middle, and you'll have such a hard time, you know, like it's really difficult to get it light and fluffy when the butter is cold. And if you're anything like me, you'll try to go around this and save yourself some time by popping it in the microwave or melting it on the stove. But melted butter creates a very different cookie texture. Like, it makes a harder, drier, crunchier cookie than something that is made with softened butter. And that's because when you melt the butter, a lot of the moisture is, evaporating from that butter. And so the fat to water ratio is going to be different, meaning the fat to water in the cookie dough recipe is going to be different, and your outcome is then going to be different. So you might be thinking, oh, it doesn't matter, I'll just melt it. It actually does make a difference. If you're short on time, what I would recommend doing is just cutting your butter into small pieces. That increased surface area means that it'll come to temperature quicker. It'll come to room temperature more quickly if you do it that way. So I definitely recommend just setting the butter out on the counter so it can soften. It will make your job so much easier, and it will make your cookies taste so much better. So we're going to take that softened butter, we're going to put it in a large mixing bowl along with our sugar, and the sugar is granular, and so it's abrasive. And so what we're doing here is we're basically creaming these two together by pressing a wooden spoon up against the side of the bowl and basically working that sugar into the butter. And what this is doing is it's breaking up the butter and it's kind of aerating it, and it's how we get a lighter, fluffier butter mixture. And this is really, really key for a nice texture in the cookies. I wish I knew how important this step was earlier on when I was baking, because I used to just kind of mix it together and it would still be kind of gritty, and I was like, whatever, I'm just going to add the rest of the ingredients. I didn't think it made a big difference. It totally does. So go ahead and really beat this vigorously for about a minute, and it will make a big difference with this cookie recipe and with any cookie recipe. Then we're going to add our pumpkin. This is just from a can, pumpkin puree, and this is going to be the third and final egg replacer. And this is nice and starchy, so again, it's going to help to bind these cookies together, and it also helps to hold on to moisture, so you're going to have a really nice consistency in the cookie. These are going to be kind of crispy on the outside and then crumbly and buttery on the inside. They stay together, but they just have the most divine, almost like shortbread cookie texture in the center. They're so, so good. Probably thinking, can I substitute applesauce? I would say in a pinch, yes, you can substitute applesauce, but if you have the option, I would always go for pumpkin here, because applesauce, you're going to get just a different texture overall, and I find that it's a lot more consistent to use pumpkin. So that's the way to go in my book. So I'm gonna add my pumpkin, my almond extract, which is so delicious and very important, I think, for making a Nordic style dessert. There's lots of almonds in Norwegian baking. So one of the Christmas cookies that I grew up with was serinekaker, which is like a Norwegian style butter cookie with almonds on top. And so almonds are just a flavor that I really associate with not only Norwegian baking, but specifically Christmas cookies. And the almond extract just works so well with the cardamom. be wondering why there's cornstarch in this recipe. The cornstarch is going to be a secondary egg replacer. So eggs, traditional chicken's eggs in a non-vegan cookie, it basically works as a binder. It holds all the ingredients together so you don't just have something that crumbles. And that's exactly what the cornstarch is going to do here. And this is going to make it to where we can roll out the cookies really easily. We can cut them out into fun shapes, and they'll hold their shape in the oven as well because of this cornstarch. So it's a really handy ingredient for vegan baking. Then I'm going to add half of the dry ingredients into the wet ingredients. I'll mix this until almost combined. You don't want to overmix once the dry ingredients are in the bowl. Then we'll add the remaining flour and mix until you see kind of like a shaggy dough starting to form. If you've ever made pie crust, it's gonna look kind of similar. It's not gonna come together right away. And once you are at that stage, it is perfect. You can stop mixing, add in your tablespoon of plant milk. I either use pea, almond, soy, really any plant milk that you like will work. I use an unsweetened one. And then I'm just gonna use clean hands and knead this dough to bring it together. And I'm gonna gently knead it for about 30 seconds to a minute. And what you'll find as you're kneading is that the flour starts to hydrate, it becomes a little more pliable, and you can form it into a ball that has you know, when you press your thumb into it, it keeps its shape. It's kind of smooth. It's very Play-Doh-like. And at that point, it is ready to chill. You might be wondering if you actually have to chill the dough or if you can just roll it out and pop it in the oven right away. And trust me, I understand the desire to want to have cookies as quickly as possible, but this actually really is important, so don't skip this step. Chilling the dough does a couple of things. The first of which is it basically firms the butter back up. So if you remember, when we were mixing the butter into the sugar, we wanted to have softened butter because that does a lot for the texture. But now it's been out for even longer. We've been mixing it even more, so the butter in the dough is very soft. So if we were trying to work with that and cut out shapes, it would be soft and flabby. It would be hard to pick up and transfer onto the baking tray, and in the oven it would spread out too much and we would end up with a dry, hard cookie. So putting the dough in the refrigerator gives the butter time to kind of chill again. It gets a bit firmer, and that's going to help the cookies hold their shape, and it's also going to create like a flaky, really nice, almost kind of shortbready texture in the center. So I'm going to roll this until it's about 1/4 of an inch thick, and then I can go ahead and cut my cookie shapes. You want to use a medium-sized cookie cutter. What we're going to do is cut a smaller shape in the middle of half of your cookies. So the solid pieces are going to be the base of the sandwich, and the ones with the cutouts are going to be the top. And then I'm going to go ahead and transfer them to a lined cookie sheet and pop that into the freezer for 10 minutes. This is going to prevent them from spreading out, and again, it's just going to improve the texture. Then they just bake for 10 minutes. When they come out of the oven, they are going to smell incredible. You're going to smell that butteriness. You're going to smell the cardamom and the almond. It instantly smells like the holidays as soon as I open my oven, and I absolutely love this stage of the process. Once they're totally cool, you can go ahead and create your cookie sandwiches. Now we're going to be using strawberry jam, and I've experimented with this recipe with a bunch of different jams. Let me tell you, strawberry for sure the winner, and plus Norwegians love their strawberries. First of all, Norwegian strawberries are delicious, but you'll also find strawberries in a ton of different desserts. Very common ingredient in Norwegian baking. And so what you're going to do is take about a teaspoon of it and spread it onto the solid cookie bases. I like to make sure that I focus most of the jam right in the center because that's where the little window is going to be, so you'll be able to see it best there. But try to do a thin layer and avoid the edges, because if you get too close to the edges, it might run down the sides when you put the top on. Then for the tops of the cookies, I'm going to, I was going to say lightly dust, but I don't really lightly dust them. I pretty generously dust the top cookies with some powdered sugar, and this creates a really beautiful kind of snowy effect that I think is just so sweet looking and really nice for Christmas time. And what I like to do is just very gently place that right on top, and you have this adorable Christmas cookie sandwich. They're so buttery and rich. That little bit of salt really brings out the butteriness as well, and they just have the nicest texture. Strawberry jam in the middle, I'm telling you, is the perfect complement with the almond and the cardamom. These are delicious. If you happen to have leftover cookies, it's a good idea to store them in the refrigerator. I actually like them best the next day. They get a tiny bit softer and chewier, and this will prevent them from getting dry. Sometimes you bake homemade cookies and they're so good and soft, and then you go to have them the next day and they're just totally dried out and hard and crunchy. I hope you enjoy these Christmas cookies. They're pretty easy to make, but all of these steps are very intentional. They all do something and they all make a difference in the final product. It's those little techniques that really go a long way here, and I think make a superb Christmas cookies. So I really hope that you guys will enjoy a little taste of Norway this Christmas. I can't wait for you to try it. If you want the recipe, it's going to be in the description box below. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in a video very soon. Bye everyone.